protections put into place for credit cards and other products, right, at the federal level and as well as state. So are there any ways you're responding to all these changing developments over the past couple of years?
Well, I know that something that we found is, one, the demand for financial literacy classes, what our trainers are telling me, the demand for financial literacy classes has exploded. It's kind of, it's interesting because usually a credit union or a nonprofit that would use our materials would say they would do maybe one class every month or maybe every couple of months, and it became a thing of, well, we want this class now, and when can you do this? Like next week, we want this class, and the week after, we want another class. So the demand for financial education classes really exploded, which is very interesting. The other thing is that credit cards were the hot topic. I mean, that was something that just, the people that were going through these classes, not only did they want one session or two sessions, sometimes they wanted, you know, a series of 8 or 9 sessions. And they really wanted it to be dissected. They really wanted to go through the credit card statement and understand what an APR was. They wanted to bring in their credit card statements. And one of the interesting things that has started to happen were people had 8, 9, 10 credit cards. And some of my trainers are telling me that people are coming into them and saying, oh, you know, I want to get rid of 2 or 3 credit cards. And how many credit cards is a good number to have? So it's really interesting that people are more, I don't want to say that they were passive and they weren't paying attention, but they're very participatory and incredibly active right now in terms of financial education workshops.
Great. Some more interest. And May or Kathy?
I mean, I would say I think there's a lot of really interesting things, as you referenced, Day, happening now at the federal level. A lot of regulatory reforms that have happened, a lot more that will be coming as a result of the latest actual reg reform bill. And once this Consumer Financial Protection Agency gets underway in Washington. But, you know, just in the past year, I mean the past 6 months really, there's been, you know, even without a new Consumer Financial Protection Agency whose sole mission, or bureau, whose sole mission will be to kind of look at consumer protections in the financial services marketplace at the federal level and throughout all regulators. Even without that, I mean, the Fed has taken really proactive steps on, you know, around credit cards and curbing some practices in the credit card industry that, you know, like, you know, that basically either trap people into sort of getting, you know, double billed or double charges on, you know, in a billing cycle, or having people who were, you know, if they had been good payers on their credit card but had been bad payers elsewhere, they were getting their interest rates, you know, dramatically increased as a result. So some of the practices that were particularly problematic have already been written into some new regulations, and I think there's some good information out there, pretty basic, good tips around what's involved in that, and it's good for that to get incorporated into these sessions. I think starting tomorrow, July 1, 2 days from now, the new rules on overdraft will go into place, and I think that's going to really be helpful for consumers, particularly people who weren't aware that the current practice has been that if you didn't have enough money in your account but you were using your debit cards for purchases, you were assuming the transaction went through. That must mean you still had money left in that account, but actually the practice in the banking world has been over the last couple of years to allow those transactions to go through while they charge you $30, $35 charges every time they do. So these sort of courtesy overdraft protection plans are something that used to automatically get lumped into a checking account. People weren't aware of it. There's no disclosures. They were never signing up for these products. They'll now have to be marketed, these products, and choose to opt in to such a plan. So I think that's going to help people who have had problems managing their money to think a little bit more about whether that's the kind of service they want, and hopefully can get a lot of education out there and make sure that people don't opt in if they, unless they really understand what it is that they're going to be getting.
Yeah, and I don't know if people have been getting from your bank or credit union these little notices saying, act now. If you don't call us and choose this feature, we will not be able to offer you this courtesy overdraft.
Out in the middle of the night.
You will, yeah. We want to save you the embarrassment of that bounced check or that rejection at the Macy's counter or whatever it is, right? So that's what we're talking about, these really like hidden high fees that make checking accounts unaffordable for people who are living with a small cushion in their account.
When you opt out of them, they come at you as if they're absolutely amazed.
Yeah.
How could you turn down this great opportunity for me to cover you and charge you on it?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because those fees are the vast majority being paid by the bottom, I forget what percentage of account holders, the lowest income account holders, and they've been subsidizing free checking for the rest of us. It's sort of like with the credit cards, right? All our mileage and so forth is subsidized by the people who are rolling over their debt and paying those high interesting fees. So we're giving you a little workshop taste right here. Let's get back to sort of the more process. Mae, did you want to add anything on that same question?
Sure. I mean, maybe we can add what would be different is really our customers changed. We weren't created in response to, we're about 4.5 years old. So the financial clinic's origins lie before the financial crisis, but even in our short period of time, the nature of our customers' crises are just that much more severe, and they're, instead of, I think we're also working with a lot more people who are once middle income rather than just working poor, rather than just $9-10 an hour. They might have actually been salaried and are dealing with foreclosure or dealing with overwhelming consumer credit and having actually fend off lawsuits. So I think the nature of who we're serving has changed pretty dramatically.
That's right. And I wanted to ask you, I noticed you're calling the people you work with customers. There's sort of different language in some of the nonprofits that say they're members or they're clients. So I'm just curious if you could describe that, because I feel like maybe it reflects some of the philosophy of your work.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very deliberate, conscious decision on ours, and very much along the lines of your reflection of the difference between financial literacy and financial education. We very specifically don't call it financial literacy, which isn't to say that our customers don't have information that would be helpful to them, but we feel that given where they've been and where they're at, they could actually turn around and probably teach us a lot about how to manage money and how to survive paycheck to paycheck. So we want to be very empowering about it. We want to come at this from a position of recognizing people's strengths and what their goals are, not necessarily the debt that they're in, which isn't to not recognize it, but to really focus more on what's possible.
Yeah.
And so I also had another point on that, about the financial, so yes, customers. And so when we talk about our legal services, I think we're a lot more comfortable talking about clients because we're lawyers and we do have knowledge that our customers or clients aren't necessarily expected to have. But in a financial coaching setting especially, we're really conscious of recognizing that they might not have a lot of other choices, right? I think all of the centers are probably overwhelmed as we are, and financial coaches are booked 2 and 3 weeks out, so it's not so much you're a consumer of resources and you could go elsewhere, but rather recognizing that they have a lot more knowledge, I think, than they're comfortable in necessarily recognizing themselves.
That's great.